Chapter 21 EOA Training Warehouse. The training was finished up for the day, and it was just Valencia and John left cleaning up. "The troops are ready, sir," Valencia said. "I can't believe how far they have come under your leadership." "Thanks, Valencia." At first he thought that Valencia was saying good things like this just to get in his good graces, but after working together for months now, he knew they had become friends. From their talks, John realized that Valencia had very little interest in the EOA, and he had fallen into it because his parents were members, just like his family. He enjoyed the training and was becoming an incredible soldier, but his heart wasn't into the EOA. They talked privately over dinner a few times a week, and John knew that it was time to confide in Valencia and take the risk. He wasn't sure how many more days he had before he would be gone. "Valencia, can you help me carry this ammo box over to the storage room?" "Of course, sir." He grabbed one end and they moved the box across the warehouse into a small storage room in the back. When the box was put away, John closed the door. He knew this would be a good place to talk, as the door was quite solid. It could have been a walk-in freezer at some point, considering the thickness of the walls. It was a perfect place for him to talk without being heard. "Valencia, please sit down for a moment. There is something I have to tell you." "Sir." "Sure, sir." "Valencia, as I told you before when we weren't around other soldiers, feel free to call me John. I consider you my friend as well as a colleague." Of course, John. I always forget." Valencia sat down, and John handed him a juice bottle. They both sipped at their juices for a minute. Then John started. "Valencia, have you ever thought about what it would be like to work for the UGMSC rather than the EOA?" "Oh, yes. Between you and me, I would rather be there. As you know, I don't care much about the EOA." "You know, we are in agreement about that." John hesitated and then said, "Valencia, can I trust you?" "Of course, John. You know I would do anything for you. You have given my life purpose." "What if that purpose wasn't here in the EOA, but somewhere else?" "You mean leave the EOA?" "Yes, that is exactly what I mean." Valencia hesitated for a moment and then said, "John, are you suggesting we leave? If so, I would be all for it. I know we are preparing for some killing, but I see no reason to kill the military. I want humans to go everywhere. I am finally old enough where I don't have to listen to my parents anymore, and I am ready to go. But I don't know how to leave. I am so grateful for you and all that I am learning." John got up and walked around. He was having trouble deciding how much to tell Valencia. Finally he said, "Valencia, in a few weeks I will be gone, and you won't see me ever again. I am being sent to the Mayflower. The plan is to destroy Sperrier with nuclear bombs when it arrives." Valencia shook his head in disbelief. "But what of the thousands of people on the Mayflower?" "The plan is to never open their pods. They will all die." Now John got up and walked around. "I can't believe this. It is one thing to encourage people to return to Earth and to God, but killing all of those innocent people and destroying a beautiful planet? This is too much." He stopped and looked directly at John. "What can I do to stop this plan?" "Well, it is time for you to know the truth about me." Valencia sat down and listened as John told him about his past, about his abuse as a child, about his basic training, about Cooper and Chi, and about his deal with Ryder. "You met Commander Ryder?" Valencia said when he got to that part. "Yes, I did, and he is the key. I have to find a way to get word to him, but everything here is so locked down. John, I have been here for many years, and security wasn't so tight before. I do know a way off the base without being discovered." John looked up at Valencia and stared for a moment. Maybe there was hope, John thought. Then Valencia told him about a tunnel that was rarely used now, but would lead them right off the base. From there, they could make for the closest city. He, of course, didn't know where that was, but once they were off base, they might be able to find some sort of sign or something that would lead them to civilization. They started to make plans. In 2 days, they would meet in the tunnels and leave from there. This would give them time to prepare supplies and to make a plan for how to distract everyone from looking for them for at least a day. They would say they needed to give the troops a day off so they could plan the next training cycle. Because it would be Saturday, they would have 2 full days during which they could travel without having to be accounted for. John told him they wouldn't discuss or meet again for fear they might get caught making their plans. Valencia agreed they would do business as usual until then. Chapter 22 USS Mayflower. Cooper was sitting with the other personnel for the presentation about the suspended animation system. They arrived at the Mayflower without much fanfare, just another set of soldiers arriving for duty. They waited in a long line as security examined their IDs and their orders, digging through their personal gear as well. This was the first time Cooper had seen this level of security. Then they were sent into the room where Cooper was now sitting. The presenter was just setting up, the title on the screen displayed, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know About Suspended Animation. I guess this is what they would be learning about in this session. Called the pods, these long cylinders were the solution to long-distance travel between planets and now interstellar travel as well. The speaker was a short, nerdy-looking man with big glasses, which he kept pushing back onto his long nose every couple of seconds. Hello, everyone. As you know, when the pods were used in the Voyager, they were still in the initial design stages, so the astronauts spent a lot of time awake for the trip. With these new pods, you will be able to stay under for much longer. Because we need just a small crew awake at all times, most of you will only have to be awakened 2 or 3 times during the trip. We have increased the time you can be asleep in the pod to 5 years, with only a week break before going under again. This sent a wave of shock through the audience. Even Cooper was surprised. The original Voyager mission only allowed people to stay in the pods for a few months at a time. This was a huge innovation. A young soldier in the front row raised his hand and said, Doctor, will we age when we are in the pod? The doctor nodded, pushing his glasses back up on his nose. Well, because your body is slowed down, you won't age as much as if you were awake. Chronologically, you will all age 7 years during the trip, and that will be your official age. However, biologically, the pod reduces your bodily functions to a rate that is about one-fifth the normal rate. So you will be about 2 years older with the pod time and your duty time. Someone raised their hand. The speaker nodded to him and he asked, Doctor, that time limit in the pod seems amazing. What happens if you stay in the pod beyond the 5 years? Well, the speaker said, pushing his glasses back up on his nose, we have tested animals beyond the 5 year limit, but something occurs past this mark. The body begins to break down. Let's just say it doesn't go well, and the odds of waking up become increasingly small. He went on to talk more about the logistics behind the pods. They would each go into a pod for 24 hours to see if their body and mind could handle it. The doctor continued, There is a lot we know about suspended animation, but there are some people who do not do well in it. If you can't handle the 24-hour test period, you won't be able to go on the trip to Sperrier, and you will be reassigned. A woman up front raised her hand and asked, Doctor, I have heard about Potter's disease. Can you explain what it is exactly? Well, this is not something to worry about. It only happens in about 1 in a 10,000 cases. We found that in a very, very small percentage of humans, a tremor develops during suspended animation. When the person comes out of animation, it spreads quickly throughout the body. We are not sure why this occurs, but it is a fatal disease. Again, please do not let this alarm you. There is very little chance of it occurring. Pushing his glasses up again on his nose, he mumbled, I personally would worry more about dreamer syndrome. Inevitably, someone asked what that was, so the doctor responded, Well, we still don't know much about how the brain deals with suspended animation. It was invented less than 50 years ago. From the evidence gathered, you will dream while you are under. Your dreams are pretty vivid, so I am told, and the longer you are under, the more real they become. In a small percentage of people, the dreams become so real their minds won't physically allow them to wake up. Their bodies want to stay in the dream. This is called dreamer syndrome. Again, this is a very small percentage, maybe 1 in 1,000 cases. Now, if there are no further questions, we will prep all of you for the test. No one seemed to want to ask any questions after that, so they all lined up to be processed and prepared for the test. As Cooper lined up behind the other soldiers and personnel, he wasn't worried about it. He faced much tougher odds than these while freelancing. I guess fate will decide if I am able to survive the pod, Cooper thought, as the line crawled forward. Chapter 23, EOA Queen Headquarters. John was having trouble sleeping. If everything went well, this would be his last night in this bed, and he would leave with Valencia forever. Ryder wouldn't be too happy about his decision to abandon, but he had plenty of information that should bring down the EOA once and for all. He would wait until just before he left to grab the card and head out. He didn't want to get caught with it before then. Just as he was about to fall asleep, the door opened and John jumped up. The lights turned on and the door closed. It was Talbot, and he was there with two of his guards. John, I have good news for you. It is time to go to the Mayflower. Now? I thought we had a couple more weeks left. I still need to train my soldiers some more. I'm sorry, John. The window for us to go is now. Please grab your stuff quickly, Talbot ordered. John didn't feel like he had a choice, so he turned to start packing his stuff, thinking about how he might get to the card to Valencia. Suddenly, he felt hands grabbing his arms and holding them. He tried to struggle, but then a small injection penetrated his neck. No, not now, was all he could think as he collapsed into their arms. Chapter 24, Mayflower Pod. The light was all around him, and Cooper squinted to see clearly. He was standing in a large field. He looked up and the sky appeared different. He frowned and realized this wasn't Earth. The lighting wasn't quite right. Am I on Sperrier? He heard a noise and decided to investigate. The weeds were tall, but not enough to really slow him down. He was walking through the field and up over a hill. It was weird. The sun was on him, but for some reason he didn't feel the heat. As he came up over the ridge, he saw a small house. There was someone working inside. He could see from the shadows through the open door. As he got closer, he heard a woman humming. He approached slowly, and then he saw her turn and come to the door. Cooper! She exclaimed. Cooper's eyes widened. It was Anne. But how? He stammered. How was your walk? Anne asked, coming close and giving him a kiss on the cheek. Good, Cooper responded, still wondering what was going on. Come in. It's dinner time. As Cooper approached the door, he felt a strange pull around him. It was as if he was made of metal and a huge magnet was pulling him. He reached for the door. Should I fight to get inside, he wondered? But then it hit him like a brick wall. He was not really here. He was... And then he felt an electric jolt and the coldness. It was so cold, Cooper thought. Specialist Richardson, open your eyes, please, a technician ordered. The sound echoed through the whole pod. Fine, fine, fine. I'm up, Cooper responded, opening his eyes as he realized where he was. Good, good, the technician said. You did it. You completed the animation test. In just a moment, the pod will open, and you can go across the hallway to the steam showers to wake up. Take it slow, soldier. It can be disorienting to return. Cooper blinked his eyes a few times and waited. There were tears running down his cheeks. The dream was so real, Cooper thought. I miss you so much, Anne. Then the pod opened and he was able to sit up. Another technician was there to help him out of bed. He was only wearing a thin white robe that clung to his body as he got up and staggered toward the showers. There were other soldiers in the showers as well, and the steam was thick when he entered. They told him the steam would make me feel better, but right now all I can think about is being back in that house with Anne. After the shower, Cooper dressed in his uniform and was sent to the psychologist. The all-white room made him feel a bit claustrophobic. As he sat down in the comfortable chair, he worried about what was next. The psychologist who sat at the desk in front of him introduced herself as Dr. Watson. She looked at her handheld for a minute, clicking through a few screens before finally looking up at Cooper. So, Specialist Richardson, tell me about your experience in the pod. Cooper wasn't sure how to respond. If I tell the truth, do I get sent away? I can see you're hesitating, Richardson, but please don't worry. As long as you came out of the animation as quickly as you did, you won't get disqualified. We know that the animation is a traumatic experience, so we use this time to check in and help you process the information so you can acclimate back to reality. Cooper sighed in relief. Thank you, Doctor. I have to say, I was a little worried. The experience was... He hesitated for a moment, thinking again about Anne. Incredible. It was like my hopes and dreams were all realized. Dr. Watson leaned forward, typing on the handheld as she did. I understand. Please tell me more. Well, I was on Sperrier, and a woman who I was falling in love with was there. She was in a little house, and she kissed me and then invited me to her house. It was as if we were married, but I know this can never be because she is back on Gemini and not coming on the Mayflower. Yes, when the mind is at rest in the animation, it can fabricate your most incredible dreams or, in some rare cases, your most extreme fears. Time does move slowly in there, so even though your dream was only a few hours long, it occupied all the time when you were under. So, will it be like that when I'm under for 5 years? Well, the research isn't there yet to confirm what might happen, but you could experience a dream that lasts months or even years. It is difficult with every person. Some people will experience short skits, while others will get stuck in a single dream that keeps looping over and over again. And then there are those extreme cases where the dream becomes reality. Cooper cut her off. Do you mean the dreamer syndrome? The doctor nodded. Correct. For some people, the dream becomes so vivid they won't leave. She grabbed the handheld again. What did it feel like right before you woke up? Describe it, please. Cooper looked up, trying to remember. I was getting ready to walk into the house, and then I felt this pull. It was all around me, like a magnet dragging me away. Did you feel you could stop it? Cooper frowned, thinking, I felt like it, if I ran into the house, slammed the door, and held it shut, I might be able to fight it. But I also had the feeling that it wasn't real, you know? It was an incredible dream. I didn't want to leave, but I knew it wasn't right. Interesting, the doctor noted on the device. And how do you feel now? Well, talking about it helps, but afterward I was so depressed. It was like I had everything I'd ever wanted, and then it was ripped away from me. The steam in the shower helped a lot. Were there drugs in the steam to make me feel better? The doctor looked surprised by this question. She quickly flipped through some more screens, glaring at Cooper. How did you know that? Did someone tell you? No, Cooper said, shaking his head. It just seems logical. If I was feeling that depression, many others would as well. Well, the doctor said, leaning in close, I shouldn't say, but it is clear from your personal records that you are smart enough to keep this a secret. Cooper nodded, leaning into her. Yes, there are drugs in the steam that help to alleviate those feelings of depression. The amount of drug is based on how you act when you wake up from suspended animation. In fact, in your case, they were quite small. Maybe you don't feel that way, but I have seen people come out of the pod with such suicidal ideations that no matter how much drugs we give, we can't help them. For the most part, though, the steam helps with this transition. Then everyone comes straight to a psychologist to ensure they are safe. In my case, it worked. I do feel much better. Wow, it felt so real for the first few minutes. Now, you understand why some people don't ever wake up. The dream becomes reality for them, and their mind flat out refuses to wake, trapping them in their own mind forever. That sounds awful, Cooper said, looking down. Well, we know from their brain patterns they live out the rest of their days in the dream, which is where they want to be. But usually their body withers within just a few weeks and rejects any chance for revival. Damn, that must be a horrible experience, Cooper concluded. I don't see any signs that you will experience these problems in the future. It is clear that you understand you were in a dream and you were able to pull yourself out of it. I will tell you, though, when you are down for many years, that dream will get stronger. So just remember to look around you, because if you are observant, you will see things that are out of place or the colors don't seem quite correct. These will help keep you grounded in preparation for awakening. Thank you for the advice. I will watch for that, Cooper replied. Okay, Richardson, you are cleared to go. You can exit out the door, and I look forward to talking to you again during your training and on the journey. Oh, are you going on the trip? Cooper asked as he stood. Yes, I will be awake for many years of the trip to help others as they come out of their pods. Okay, I will see you soon. Cooper exited the door and found the rest of the soldiers waiting. They were told that the next part of the plan was to get housing lined up. They would live in temporary dorms for now, but once the trip started, most of them would be moved into pods for the journey. Chapter 25, Earth Orbit. But Talbot, do you have to keep him asleep even now? Paul said, looking over at his son who was inside a pod to his right. Yes, my father, it was best. I know you trust him completely, but I was getting the feeling that he wasn't with you all the way. This just makes sure that he will remain loyal. I know, it is what we agreed to, but I just wish I could say goodbye. Don't worry, my father. You will see him again soon, when we all wake up on the Mayflower. Yes, God willing, it will all work out. Now, my father, let's get back to our seats. We still have a long way to travel before we can be loaded into the pods ourselves and then put on the Mayflower. Understood. As soon as they were strapped in, Talbot gave the word, and the acceleration taking them out of orbit began. There would be many more ship transfers to cover their travels before reaching the Mayflower. Chapter 26. Mayflower Dorms. Unpacking into the wall cabinet was easy for Cooper. He hadn't brought much with him. In fact, most of the soldiers didn't have much. They were only allowed to bring 50 kilograms, so it wasn't much more than their uniforms and a few personal treasures. Cooper kept the Medal of Honor his mom received and also the gift from Anne. He set both of these items on the top shelf of his cabinet and then sat down in his bunk. They would be training on the ship for the next 2 months in preparation for the pods and the long journey towards Sperrier. He would be awakened 3 times during the journey, each for a 6-month duty assignments working on maintenance to keep the ship running efficiently. He laid down on the bunk, daydreaming about Anne, when he heard a familiar voice. Could it be? Cooper wondered. Then he heard the laugh and knew it must be Childs. He jumped out of his bunk and saw not only Childs but also Alwine and she walking between the rows of bunks. Cooper moved into the walkway, blocking their passage, and stood there in shock. Guys, but how? Cooper! She screamed and shook his hand, and then they gave him a huge hug. Then Childs and Alwine were all over him as well. They were yelling at each other, and the excitement was contagious. Then one of them started the wolf pack howl from basic training, and they were all howling at the ceiling until they lost their breath. How is this possible, guys? Cooper asked again after they calmed down. They looked from one to the other, and then Childs took the lead. Well, surprise! After the battles at Armstrong, Commander Ryder put out an order to everyone on the moon asking for additional soldiers willing to go to Sperrier. I guess after the EOA battles, they rescreened the people assigned to the USS Mayflower and eliminated many of them as possible enemies. This left several openings. Well, I was on the moon and I saw Chi about a week ago, so we started talking and decided to go for it. About that same time, Alwyn volunteered as well. We decided since you were still trying to finish up your final training, we would surprise you. So, surprise! You have to be joking. This is crazy. My best friends headed to a new world together. This is incredible. Cooper howled again and gave them all hugs. He was feeling so down after leaving Anne, but now he was better for the moment as he had his friends along for the journey and his new life. After they finished hugging, Chi asked, Cooper, have you eaten? We were just headed to the mess hall. At the mention of food, Cooper heard his stomach rumble. Yes, that sounds awesome. I haven't eaten since my pod test. Yeah, that pod dream was messed up. I will have to tell you more about it later. I am not looking forward to that again. Let's go eat, said Alwine. The 4 friends headed to the mess hall, laughing and telling stories about their pod dreams.